Hey everyone, good afternoon. It's Erica with the Gallatin Valley Sentinel as we are wrapping up our candidate interviews. Today we have Douglas Fischer with us, who is running for the mayor of Bozeman. Mr. Fischer, welcome. I know you're a commissioner, but today you're Doug Fischer, and so we'll invite you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you, Erica. I'm really a pleasure to be here. I'm Douglas Fisher. I'm running. uh, I've served 3 terms on the Bozeman School Board and was appointed to the Bozeman City Commissioner, City Commission in the 2 years ago to fill the shoes of the late Commissioner Eho Pomeroy. So I'm running for mayor this year because I'm running for mayor because I want Bozeman to be a place where my kids and all of our kids can thrive. And I think to do that, you need 3 things. We need a affordable community. We need a sense of public safety, and we need strong jobs and vibrant jobs. Um, and there's a fourth thing that is important. I think is trust as an open and accountable city government that you trust.
Okay. Well, you've already answered my next question, which are your top three priorities. So you're on it. We'll just continue along and dive into the meat of the interview. So housing is our first section.
Sure.
What role do you believe the local government should play in the creation of affordable housing? What does that look like to you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think housing is without question the biggest issue that's facing Bozeman. Um, and I firmly believe that if you work in Bozeman, you should be able to live in Bozeman, right? We don't want people commuting hither and yon. It just adds to everyone, it's just it makes it's bad for your personal life and it's just bad for
Yeah.
me. So I've been working to bring affordable housing to Bozeman using tax breaks and the limited tools that we have as a city government have available to us. But I also think we need to make sure our code reflects our values as a community and that it sets a clear mandate, frankly, that we need gentle, appropriate infill so we don't sprawl. Um, I think a lot of people feel stuck economically. I think
Yeah.
in some ways, I'm worried that the city commission, frankly, is also stuck. That we need to focus on regulation where it matters the most, but then we also need to remove friction where it doesn't.
Yeah.
Protect greenfields and sensitive lands, but then give clear and quick approval to projects that meet code and that bring the growth that we need, the housing that we need.
So how do you view the role of infill and increased residential density in Bozeman's growth strategy, particularly with the rise of multi-unit apartment buildings? Do you think that this level of density is right for the city?
So I hear this frustration a lot, frankly.
Yeah.
That oh my God, we are becoming a city of apartments and a city of 4-story apartments, and that these are kind of monolithic structures that just they don't fit into neighborhoods. They don't look great.
Yeah.
They're just I
It's
get
wild how quickly it's happened too. It's really wild,
it.
crazy.
They have really sprouted, right? And I
Yeah.
now, but I also get the need that drove, right? I mean, if you go back 2, 3 years ago, we were sitting there with like a infinitesimal vacancy rate, right? And rents were going through the roof. It was
Yeah.
virtually impossible to find a place to live. And I think what you're seeing, frankly, is what markets do best. There was a clear need for housing. The market met that need, and now prices are dropping. Vacancy rates are going up. We have a little breathing room. Um, and I think that this is also a very appropriate time for us to reassess.
Mhm.
Um, I My feeling is that the market is going to help us get there too. There are a lot of single family housing projects in the pipeline. I know of a lot of developers that are switching from kind of a multi-unit, multi-story thing to more of like single family homes. So I think the pendulum is swinging back. And we're going to see a mix of housing coming back into the pipeline over the next few years. I think our discussion on growth in town, what kind of projects come into town over the next few years is going to change as we absorb all these apartment buildings. Um, I, kind of feel strongly. I don't think the city is not really and should not, frankly, be in the business of telling developers what to build on their land. Um, you don't want me telling a developer, oh, no, no, you need to, do this for that, frankly.
I
But
don't think anybody likes being told what to do, period. But yeah.
right. At the
Yeah.
same token, we have a responsibility, I think, to our community to make sure that we're building communities as opposed to housing, like that when we approve a project, right, we need to find ways to encourage a community, like neighborhoods where you have housing, but you also have a brew pub or a coffee shop or a grocery store or a school, or yeah, and certainly open space and parks that make this place livable and are part of what we really like about a lot of our older neighborhoods. So that's where I think we as a commission need to focus, and we need to make sure that these developments, we're getting a diversity of development rather than monocrops.
Yeah, and this next part. So the apartment construction has outpaced the single family homes by nearly 4 to 1 since 2018. And some of the city leaders are calling single family homes and neighborhoods relics of the past, which it's good to hear that there are plans to bring back the single family home, because some people want to have their own home and some land, or a yard. So do you support preserving the single family zoning? Just so I'm clear and I asked the question, or do you believe Bozeman should phase it out? I think you've kind of already answered that, but I wanted to ask the
Well, look,
question.
so first of all, I mean, I gotta say, our hands are a little. The legislature has essentially phased out a zone that allows only
Yeah.
single family homes, right?
Mhm.
And so we as a commission are going to follow. We have to follow that law. That said, we our zoning, it kind of allows up to, right? So when we zone, it allows up to X, right? Up to apartments, up to and so, I think, we need to give developers the flexibility to put what they think the market's going to bear
Mhm.
on lands. But I think we also need to be sensitive to how neighborhoods are going to react to when a big parcel comes online next to them, or for
Yeah.
infill. And so, you know, I, I would certainly approve a project that has single family homes. I have no problem with that. If there's a need for that. And if a developer can make it work and thinks, great. But there's definitely need for new homes in this community, and of all types.
Yeah.
And so, um, I'm, I would never say no to a project that has single family homes. At the same time, I'm going to zone, and I think our policy as a city has been to zone to allow, kind of some, a range of density, and the upper limit is where that, to me, is where the debate lies. It's like,
Hmm.
you don't want to put big, maximum density next to an existing single family neighborhood. uh,
Yeah.
so that's a sensitivity I think you need to be aware of.
Yeah. So, budget and economy is our next section.
Hmm.
How would you ensure the city's long term fiscal health, particularly in funding infrastructure and services without overburdening the taxpayers? I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
taxes, taxes, taxes.
Taxes, taxes, taxes. And that's another frustration I hear. In fact, I'm feeling it, is that our property owners, especially those who are on fixed income, are feeling intense pressure on their
Yeah.
pocket, right? They're getting squeezed. And um and I'm the only candidate who has had the experience of having to make tough decisions on whether to raise taxes or to cut services. We did it at the school district. We had to take $4 million out of our budget. We had a $4 million shortfall.
Wow.
We developed a transparent process to find ways to make those cuts without severely impacting student learning, and without going to a taxpayer and saying we need more money. So there will be times, I cannot sugarcoat this, where I'm going to vote to increase taxes, but it's going to be only after we have exhausted every effort to make sure we are tightening our belt and we are cutting non-essential things.
Yeah.
Um, let me see if you've got a follow up there.
Well, yeah, sure. I got plenty of questions, but I think that sounds great. I mean, I don't envy the job. You have to kind of try to make everybody happy, and it's really hard to do that. So appreciate the the huge lift that it's going to be, but it, I'm glad there's a plan, because right now it just seems so
Mhm.
I don't know, just so heavy and loaded.
It
Which
certainly is. And so when your police chief comes to you and says, "Hey, we need 3 more cops," right?
yeah,
Or the fire chief comes to us and says, "We need a whole new fire station,"
yeah,
right?
yeah,
To because I mean, our response rates on the edge of town are getting to be 10 minutes, right? If you're having a heart attack, try holding your breath for 10 minutes.
yikes,
you know? And so, um, but at the same time, the voters have told us really clearly that we need to find a way to staff these things through
yeah.
existing funding. Now, I'll be
So
very, oh, go ahead.
go ahead, I don't want to interrupt.
No, 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 go ahead. Go ahead.
We'll just keep moving. What do you think about Bozeman's financial support of local nonprofits and how that funding is being prioritized?
Well, so when we say local nonprofits, we're not talking like the soccer league or, we're talking about HRDC
Yeah.
and places like Haven and Family Promise that really help families and individuals who are have our help to them is largely to when someone is displaced, loses their home, is in a crisis, we they provide emergency housing, or transitional housing to get them to someplace safe. That is not a service, in most other cities. That is a service that city provides, where they have staff, they have
Mhm.
departments, they have facilities. Most other cities run, say, the homeless shelter, or or a domestic violence kind of a place for a mom who's experiencing domestic violence to kind of go and be safe. We contract that out to these nonprofits, and there's and I think honestly we save money by doing so. We're not paying city staff salaries for this. And so I think we can look at and there's a gap between what they pay to provide the service and then what we actually provide. What they need to provide that service and what we pay. So I think we're getting a pretty good deal for our taxpayers by doing this, because they're able to leverage other grants and so forth that we don't have
Right.
access to, and we're not managing it. Um, can we do a better job? Yeah, I think what we need to do is, Bozeman has the only shelter in in the region, in the valley.
Yeah.
And we get people from Belgrade, from Big Sky, from Manhattan, from West Yellowstone, and we need to make sure that our partners are also contributing to that. So that's one area where I think we could do a little better job.
So what do you think about the city funding the tenants' right to counsel? That's a big topic that's been discussed a lot. How do you feel about that?
So I think, nobody wants to end up in court dealing with an eviction.
Of course not.
Landlords don't,
Yeah.
tenants don't. And I think to the extent we can kind of reduce that conflict, uh, everybody benefits. And so I am in favor of a limited program. I Now the tenant's right to counsel, it's a bit of a lightning rod. You talk about a right. I think everyone talks about rights, no one talks about responsibilities these days,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I personally, the way I'm framing this or viewing this is as an eviction prevention program where we can help a tenant who's got a problem with a landlord, and there's conflict that's coming where you're headed before you get into a court where it's suddenly really adversarial. Can we get somebody to help a tenant say, look, your lease, here's your lease, show me your lease, let's look at your lease and let's look at what you got, right? Your lease says no pets, you've got a cat, if you get to court, we can do nothing about this. You're going to have
Yeah.
to get rid of that cat or find a new place to live, right? I think so. I'm not talking about. I don't want to, get say, okay, a city attorney is going to go against the landlord attorney, and it's but I do think um, tenants often need some help, kind of getting their life sorted and getting out of a conflict with a landlord. And it's helpful if you can take some of that emotion out and have a lawyer to lawyer conversation about like, look, here's where the problem is. I'll talk to my client, my tenant, and we can get this resolved without getting into a courtroom.
Yeah, and I think really for the folks that don't really pay attention to this kind of stuff, politics, local policies, it is emotional because on its face, it looks like, oh, we're going to have folks moving into rental units that have no intention of paying rent, and they're just going to get out of the eviction and just want to squat or not take care of responsibilities. They signed a contract. How does that look when the property owner, the manager, they can't really enforce the contract? You're right. You're spinning around in circles, and I think that that's where a lot of the public frustration is coming from. Is that it appears like an easy way out, even though that maybe not what it really is. I think some more transparency on what that really looks like would be really beneficial for people in the community that are adamantly against it, and
Mhm.
or people that don't really know that much about it. They just think, oh, I'm against it, because they don't really know what is going to go into it. So, on a personal note, I think it's just a little black and white, but there's no way that there aren't landlords or property managers that aren't taking advantage of situations. And I know it's happening. I know people that it's happened to, and it's not right. It's frustrating. So I think there should be help in that regard. But I
Well, I mean,
think,
yeah, I wouldn't cast it as like there's landlords taking advantage of situations.
yeah,
I don't know that, maybe there are, but it's like I just became a landlord over the summer, right? And I will tell you that if our tenants stop paying rent,
yeah,
uh, the margins are so thin, we would get underwater really quickly, right?
yeah,
So I get that landlords are like looking at this and like, oh, wait a minute, you know, I like there's no money in my little budget to pay for a lawyer or anything like that if
right.
I run a problem, right? And yet here's the city paying some money for a lawyer. I get that kind of fear and frustration.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we kind of as you mentioned, like take some of the temperature down a little bit, maybe make it and show it that it's like, look, it's a way to kind of decrease the conflict before you really get to an expensive legal process.
Yeah. Yeah, you sign a contract, you're supposed to pay your rent. You can't, responsibility comes down
Right.
to responsibility, accountability. And I think, anyway, just some clarity on what that really looks like would be helpful. So we'll move on. What is your view of the city's belonging in Bozeman DEI plan? Do you think this initiative is necessary? And what do you think about the amount of taxpayer money that has already been spent on it? Do you think that this is the way forward to continue with the DEI?
Well, look, I think, the bottom line is like Bozeman needs to be a safe and welcoming community. I don't know that I haven't talked to anyone who would disagrees that we
Sure.
should be a safe and welcoming community and we're open to all. And this is part of, I think, what makes Bozeman so beautiful is that it's a fun place to be and we're welcoming and we're friendly. It's not New York City. I did vote for the Belonging in Bozeman plan. Um, my personal preference is, and it's 80 pages and it's very detailed and, um, my personal preference is that to have our city manager and our department directors kind of live that ethos to make sure that to make sure that their work as they go about the business of running a city, paving streets, taking care of our parks, that we make sure that we are living that philosophy, right? And you know, I um I'm not so sure a highly prescriptive and detailed plan is 100% necessary. And I will say that, I don't think, the city hasn't spent, we're not spending a lot of money on this. There's a Belonging in Bozeman coordinator that is
Hmm.
in our budget. Um, and I think that is somebody who could help kind of us reach out to, various groups. I think, like to the disability community and make sure that when we plan a park or when we have a gym or swim center, that library, that these are accessible areas for all of us. Um, and frankly, I think the city commission is at its best when we focus on problems that help everybody. So to me, that's affordability, it's safety, it's housing. And so my focus as mayor is how can I make our lives better for everyone and build a community? And I want our commission and our staff focused like a laser on that work that advances those goals, as
Mhm.
opposed to worrying about kind of these, more cultural wedge issues that I
Right.
honestly aren't going to get us to a better community.
Agree. So this is kind of an interesting question for you because you're on the city commission, but I'm going to kind of put you on the spot.
Sure.
Do you believe that the current mayor and the city commission that you're serving on is representing the majority of the constituents in Bozeman? Everybody has asked the same question, so I've got to
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
you.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think we can do a little better job being more of a transparent and an accountable city commission.
Yeah.
I, this is something I would like to. I have thought a lot about. And
Hmm.
I think my experience on the school board, um, where I think the school district did a really good job of making sure its decisions are transparent, making sure all stakeholders and a lot of different voices are in the room. Um, and and I think there are lessons I've learned there that I would like to bring to the city hall. So um, I I will I think we can do a much better job making sure our decisions reflect uh, a larger totality of the community. I don't think we'll ever get to consensus, true consensus
Yeah.
where we're all so no, there's no kumbaya here,
We hope. We hope.
we can dream, but
Yeah.
I think we can do a better job on a number of different of the issues that are coming before us of making sure that all the true diversity that we have in our town is reflected.
How would you improve the transparency? I think everybody that I've talked to has has that's a goal of making things more transparent for the community about what's going on at the meetings. A lot of people still don't attend or don't know how to or don't have time to. It's a lot, and there are a lot of them. So how could you improve the transparency?
Well, again, this is something where I believe I bring experience. I'm the only person who brings this kind of experience. I've done this. And so let's take tenants right to council as an
Mhm.
right. It's a kind of a flashpoint issue. We've got really people kind of dug into their different corners. Everyone's nervous because we don't know what the proposal is that's gonna come out in front of the city commission, right?
Yep.
It kind of we take a problem, we bring it into city hall, city staff works on it, it comes in front of the city commission, and it's like, wait a minute, where's my voice in that? I think a better approach would be to get landlords in the room, get tenants in the room, get staff in the room, maybe some representatives from the legal community. So the Montana State University has essentially a tenants, they don't call it tenants right to counsel, but they have legal services that they extend to students. They have a
Hmm.
program almost exactly like what we're thinking about that's kind of working, and it doesn't attract a lot of attention, and it doesn't honestly get a lot of use. But bring some of those attorneys into the room, and maybe we buy everybody lunch, but have a discussion on okay, here's my concern as a landlord, here's my concern as a renter, here's my concern as a staff member dealing with a budget. How do we make this work? And then I think what you can do is then take that to the city commission, or you can take it out to the public for comment, but you take that to the city commission, and ideally you have your landlords feel like the answer they see their fingerprints and their
Yeah.
input on the answer, the tenants have their concerns addressed, and I'm hoping that you don't fill the room with a bunch of angry people who feel like, wait a minute, you haven't heard me.
Yeah, we've it's wild that we can't seem to kind of come together and have a really respectful conversation um that's not emotionally charged, and that's a good. I love to hear that plan. I hope it can happen.
We can do that. I think, so the school district had a really in the middle of COVID, and when the whole
Oh my
question
gosh,
about
that must have
equity,
been
right?
crazy. Yeah.
It was crazy, but we put everybody in the room together and we had a respectful conversation, and we came up with various plans and proposals that I think worked, right?
Mhm.
And so we as a community can do this. I've seen it happen. We just don't have we're not using that muscle right now at City Hall.
Well, I love the idea too of building on something that is working, even if it's a small little microcosm with the university. If we can build on that on a larger scale, where there's proven success, that sounds very reasonable to me.
Mhm.
So we'll move into public safety.
Sure.
and infrastructure a bit. Do you believe the city is doing enough to support the police and fire services?
Um, wow. Okay.
I know.
What is
Just a
enough,
little
right?
a little easy question with an easy answer, I'm sure.
Safety is a core priority in my
Yeah.
life as a public servant, right? I want our kids to be able to walk to school. I
Mhm.
want you feeling comfortable in a park, in downtown at night, in any of our public spaces. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, and at the same time, the public has been very clear that we need to use the money we have to fund our city services. We're not, we don't. It's not an open checkbook, and we can't go to them and say, "Hey, we." In fact,
Yeah.
we went to them and said, "Hey, we need 20 new police officers," and they were like, "Find a way to fund it yourselves. Don't you know?" And so I'd like to see us, kind of maybe reprioritize our police resources to get a traffic unit, for instance, in the city. I think
Mhm.
nothing erodes public trust more than let me just say, but we invite frustration and an erosion of public trust when we let people run lights and drag race down Kagi with abandon, right? And so I think a traffic unit would be really helpful. And I also want to emphasize mental health. Um, we get many complaints by owners of businesses downtown or by the library
Yeah.
or somebody in a park that, and oftentimes those complaints, there's police show up, there's the person that is the problem is not breaking any laws. They're just in the middle of a mental health crisis. And
Yeah.
so I think we could do better for those people, and we can reserve our police resources for what, the crisis, what we really truly need them to be responding to, like someone running a red light or whatnot, by helping provide some of those mental health resources that people need. So to me, public safety is a matter of supporting our police and our fire and getting some mental health services in. I think we have gotten a clear message from voters that we need to kind of fund this within our own within the framework we have now, and I think by reprioritizing we can address some of that.
Okay. So this subject is kind of touchy, well, very touchy, especially on a national level. But what is your perspective on the increase in Bozeman's illegal alien population, and what role, if any, should the city play in response to that?
Well, I haven't seen a lot of data that we're seeing a huge increase in immigration. It's not an issue that the city and the city commission or the mayor has a lot of jurisdiction over.
Mhm.
There's a lot of questions about ICE raids and so forth. I think, I
Yeah.
expect our police and all departments and our employees to follow the law, but this is just not an issue that your commission or your mayor has a lot of jurisdiction over.
And wrapping up the public safety, what do you think about Bozeman's water supply and the Bozeman Water Adequacy Ballot Initiative? That's a more infrastructure question.
Of
What do you
course.
feel? How do you feel about that?
So, I mean, I am a emphatic no on this water initiative.
Okay.
I think, but I get the concern that is driving it, right? People, they look around, they feel like we're just using water with abandon, and we have our message for years and years to be to conserve water, and they're feeling squeezed by housing prices. The problem is that water and housing, affordable housing, don't they have very little to do with each other, and and if we squeeze, the law of supply and demand, I've seen it sitting in public service. I've seen it a lot. You restrict growth, you restrict something that's in demand, the prices are going to go up. So this water initiative, you know, is is a is an issue that is born out of frustration. I get that, and I think we need to do a much we need to confront the housing prices that we need, but in order to do that we need flexibility that the water initiative is going to take right off the table. And in order to deal with with water, we again we need also need flexibility that this water initiative is going to take out. It's going to take away tools that we are using to acquire more water for the city of Bozeman. It takes those essentially off the table. So I can't emphasize this enough. There are going to be the unintended consequences of the water initiative are going to make Bozeman it's going to turn us into an Aspen or to a Boulder where prices are ridiculously high. We're sprawling into
Yes.
other areas, and it's not going to make the vibrant. It's going to really kind of cap or even reduce the vibrancy and the excitement. You know, the the vibrancy of Bozeman.
Yeah. So the last tough question I have for you, what is your view on the city commission's recent decision to adopt the pride flag as an official city flag? Do you support or oppose this decision, and why?
So look, well, you know, perhaps that we voted, the city commission voted 4-1 to
Yeah.
adopt the pride flag as an official city flag.
Mhm.
And I was the one vote who voted no. So no, I don't. I look. I also want to be equipped. But let's go back to my. Bozeman needs to be a welcoming community for everyone. I mean, to me, that's unambiguous. There's no compromise on that. Um, I do, and I think we need to treat everyone with respect. It's it's
Sure.
it's just. I mean, that's you know, we're all humans. We deserve respect. The problem I have is that when we adopt another organization's symbol and flag as a city flag, we are bringing in all of we're bringing in a lot of other baggage with that flag. We're bringing
Yeah.
what that organization's kind of stands for, and so forth. So while I understand a lot of people see the pride flag as a just meaning inclusivity and welcomeness, it also represents a political movement, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I heard, and that's what a lot of objection to. And so I think we could have done, if we want to find a symbol that represents Bozeman, we should have done the hard work to create a symbol that Bozeman is for Bozeman, and not adapt another organization's flag.
Yeah, I saw your comment. I stayed up till what 1 in the morning that night. So I appreciated it, and everybody's entitled to their feelings and what they feel is right. But we'll see how it goes. Not my place to comment how I feel about it. I hope the city can kind of come together and start to really tackle some of the issues that that are threatening, like the idea of it becoming Aspen. Just makes me crazy. That would be such a shame.
Well, that's
Uh,
yeah. I mean, that's where I think you want your mayor and your
yeah,
city commission focused on things, concrete things we can do to make life better for everybody. And
right.
affordability, safety, and a sense of community, I think, are the three things that you really want your city focused on, and not distracted by, you know, cultural issues or cultural wedges.
Yeah. So why we're at the end of our interview. The fun stuff. Why should Bozeman residents vote for you? And you can also share how we can or how the community can learn more about your campaign.
Certainly, yeah. I think experience matters when it comes to who we choose to be Bozeman's mayor. If you get in an airplane, you want to see a pilot, maybe it has a little gray on the sideburns, maybe has a little experience, and frankly, who is going to understand
Yeah.
that facts matter and that there's you can't just make things up or fly by the seat of you don't want a pilot who's flying by the seat of his pants, literally, right?
No.
So I feel like my family, we've built our lives in this community. I've served in this community. I have listened to a lot of different voices in this community. I know that there are a number of voices who don't necessarily show up at your city commission meeting, but who have, are very much impacted by this. And you have to make decisions that affect it, that work for everybody. So
Mhm.
um, I I think my opponents are well-meaning, but it's risky, I think, for Bozeman to rely on either single issue candidates or folks with no experience in government. And so to
Yeah.
just
Great
to sum
answer.
up, I'm at fisherformayor.com. There's a C in Fisher. It's
Okay.
fisherformayor.com. And you can get lots of more information on that website.
Wonderful. We'll post everybody's interviews and the ways that they can find them on social media and whatnot. And we're
One
about
other
finished
thing,
with them, so they should be going up soon. Go
my
ahead.
cell phone. Let me give you my cell phone. It's 406 600 8469.
Oh, you are so brave.
Call me. I want to be your mayor. I want to be your candidate. So
Wonderful. Well, I've seen you talk a lot. I'm at a lot of the meetings, so it's a real pleasure to meet you face to face today. And I really appreciate the time. And we wish all the candidates all the best, and hope that our community can come together and thrive in these coming years. So wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. And if you ever you want to catch us up on things that are going on, please feel free to reach out to us as well.
Sure. Erica, thank you. It's a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. You as well. Take
Take
care.
care.